Hey She Slayers, welcome to another episode of She Slays the Day. I am your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunslick. How you doing? We're just gonna chill. This is gonna be a fun. It's not gonna be a fun episode. I don't think I'm gonna cry though. So that's good, right? Like any episode where I cry, I don't know. I'm not feeling it. If you know me, I'm an Enneagram 3. We don't like to be publicly emotional, but we're going to be talking about some body stuff today, mostly because I was stupid and promised you that I would do it. And now I'm following up on that promise. So let's see, what is new before we jump in? So I've been listening to In Sync radio a lot this week, and I just really feel compelled to all of the chiropractic students listening. If you have not really spent time exploring this genre of music, I encourage you to ask Spotify or Pandora or whatever you're using to just play like Alexa, to play like In Sync radio. You're going to get some really good music that you probably haven't heard too much of. Spice Girls. I know you've heard Britney Spears. Just go ahead and do that because I've been vibing it lately. Let's see what else. Okay, so this is a funny story. So our 6-year-old Ty has been having some issues lately, and which has required us to have some meetings with all of these people at her school. It is insane the number of humans that are invested in her living her best life. So the other day we're at this meeting, and the dean of students is talking about how he walked Ty onto the bus and went through this checklist and sat in the seat with her. And this guy's busy, okay? I'm just almost mortified that this guy is having to spend this much of his time devoted to my child. But I'm like, okay. So I'm listening. And then she went and he's like, and she was really listening and was like, yeah, okay. And I thought I was getting through. And then she got written up that day on the bus. And so I say to this group of teachers, I go, it reminds me of that episode of Friends where Phoebe is trying to teach Joey French and it just isn't getting through. Now, if you know what part of Friends I am talking about, this was hilarious. This was a very funny reference or analogy. I don't think anybody in the room knew what the heck I was talking about, though. And so then my joke just fell flat, and I was really pissed about it, too. I went to my office and was telling my CAs. They had the appropriate response, which is to laugh out loud, because that is such a funny moment in Friends. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go ahead, go YouTube Phoebe teaches Joey French in Friends, and very, very funny. And honestly, how I feel sometimes when I'm talking about subluxation to my patients, and I'm talking about, or whether I'm talking about working out or breathing or shots, or the big one is when I'm talking about the effects of mental health on their physical pain, or on their how their body feels. And then I go through all of this explanation, and at the very end they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So do you think it could be my pillow? And I'm like, motherfucker, oh my God, were you listening? But so that is that's also our daughter Ty. So, all right, let's do a listener highlight. So this one is from Cassie, and this was a DM, and it just says, "Hi, Lauryn. I just listened to your Getting Out of Network episode. It was very encouraging. Thank you. My husband and I have a clinic together and run things very differently, and this has been a hope of mine lately." Thank you, Cassie, for sending me that very nice little note. That is a popular episode for people, because getting out of network is a difficult process. It's very taxing, and a lot of people feel like there's absolutely no way. They feel stuck in their own practice. And I don't know. I think that's part of, I have so many goals with this podcast, but that is definitely one of them. is not getting you out of network, but helping people realize that like their practice is their practice, and it's there, yes, to serve other people, but like there's so much burnout in this profession, and we are doing them people no good if we're getting burned out. And so, there are tons of chiropractors that are not seeing the numbers they want to see. Maybe they're stuck at like 80 a week, 100 a week, and they think that getting out of network would just be like, is not an option because it's a nail in the coffin. And I would actually say that that could be part of your explosion into growth. This episode is not about that, but it's a good episode. If you are feeling stuck, whether you have closed rooms and you want to transition to open adjusting, or you want to get out of network with insurance, or you want to, I don't know, all the different things that you might feel stuck in practice, I just encourage you to shed that in some way. Take a step towards it in 2021, because holy cow, 10 years into practice, I love my practice. It's so much more than I did in the beginning, and it has nothing to do with the numbers. It has to do with how fulfilling it is, because it is an extension of me. So, okay, we're going to pray, and then we're going to get to the body episode. Is that what we're calling this? No, that's a lame title. Kirby, don't call it that. Or maybe, I don't know. Okay. Take a nice deep belly breath for me. Unclench your jaw. Relax your shoulders. And connect. Be present with me in this moment. If you are multitasking, just please take 20 seconds to stop what you're doing, unless it is driving. Please keep driving. And be here with me for a sec. Dear God, thank you so much for this opportunity to connect with these humans today on a subject that is so personal and vulnerable. Let this message help people through what they're going through. Help them see through my defense mechanisms of humor, and know that these are real issues, that they are not alone at all if they are struggling or dealing with this. Help this be a baby step for people. Help them realize that they're doing the work right now just by listening to this, and that these processes and shedding all of these layers of bullshit that we have around us as women, as entrepreneurs, as mothers, these things do not happen overnight, and this is a steady process. Just let me be the conduit for the work that you have me here to do. So help me do a good job, please. In your name we pray. Amen. Okay. So I feel like I should caveat this episode by letting you know that I am actually not a licensed therapist. I don't know if you knew that or not. Okay. I am a chiropractor. I haven't even taken a course on mental health and body issues. I haven't even really done much therapy, so I can't even regurgitate. Well, I tried doing therapy. That's not fair. But my therapist, God bless her, I didn't seek out a therapist specifically for eating disorders. And so a lot of the stuff when this stuff came up was, anyways, it wasn't healthy for me. So I don't have much there. I've read some books. Not really going to reference any of that. Today, this is just about my experience, me sharing the work. I'm not going to tell you much of my story. There's episodes for that. And I do think it's important to share because the more I do, whether it's through episodes or on Instagram or whatever, the more I see I am not alone. So it's one thing when you feel like it's just you that's suffering. But when I share and you guys respond that you too feel those ways, it hurts. It hurts if I thought, if my daughter told me that she was having these thoughts. And that really continues this cycle. It gives me back momentum to be like, okay, no. We have to keep going. You have to keep sharing because it's not okay. I think as women, we're very okay with our own suffering. And then it's like other people, you're like, no, but it's not okay for you to do that. Like, so it also helps me process stuff faster. Once I kind of realized that there was an issue. So again, Enneagram 3 here, I'm very impatient. And so once I realized there was a quote unquote problem, I don't want to spend 10 years dealing with it. Again, impatient. So I probably will, like, if we're honest, there is no destination, blah, blah, blah. So I probably will spend an entire lifetime working on this. But the faster that I can make these leaps, it's more enjoyable, right? Like life starts to become, the more you start to shed these like, not hurdles, these burdens, these things that we just weigh on our shoulder. It's just like, oh, can I get rid of that? And so sharing just kind of makes that happen faster. So I think that this topic goes way, way deeper than the fat versus skinny thing. Way, way deeper. I shared a post like a month-ish ago or whatever. I don't know when I shared it. That was more specific to the way that female chiropractors have all of these rules around our body, not rules, well, but yes, rules, and all of these negative thoughts and all of these things that, we are stuck with, whether it's breastfeeding or birth or not being healthy, because we're supposed to have the most healthy immune systems in the world. We're never supposed to get sick because we get adjusted, and we're never supposed to have a C-section, because we got adjusted, and our kids are never supposed to have an ear infection because we adjust them. And there's like all of this stuff. And then we're also supposed to be able to adjust everybody. And so there's just all of this, like we should, because if we don't, then chiropractic is a failure. And there's all these like complicated things. So women's bodies historically are not for themselves. Okay. Like if we think about this on a deeper level than this fat skinny thing, the woman body is here to serve a purpose. And I'm sure, like, if we really wanted to go into it, like, men probably feel this way because, like, blah, 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 they had to be athletic to kill the tiger. Oh my God, not tigers. Like, cavemen weren't killing tigers, were they? They're almost extinct. Oh, whatever. They were killing something to feed. So, like, I'm sure men could, like, give this sob story about, like, no, I need to be strong and fast. This podcast isn't for you. Get off my podcast. So women's bodies are historically here to serve a purpose. So one, visually, like women's bodies are there for the pleasure of others. This is like, I'm not a historian, but this is not a new thing. Social media has magazines like Cosmopolitan that didn't invent this. Women's bodies have been for the viewing pleasure for, a really, really long time. Also, women's bodies are here for the purpose of producing offspring. Without us, the world would die. And then we have to keep the children alive, right? Like, so when we look and we think, okay, we're going to like step back and view how did we get in this clusterfuck where we hate our bodies because we're a size larger than we were 5 years ago or a year ago, or that we gained weight with COVID, or how did we get here? This is so much deeper than how did you get here, right? Like we talk a lot about like our stories, and it's like, well, when I went through puberty, I was fat, and then I became skinny, and then I got popular, and that taught me this, and all of that is absolutely relevant. One of the books I am reading right now talks about, your trying to think about your first triggering moment. So whether that is your first triggering moment around maybe you don't want to have kids, and, when was the first moment that it was like assumed you were going to, and that like started to mess you up mentally? Or when was the first time that you realized you might not be able to have kids, or you might not be able to do this? Or, for me, when was the first moment that you felt became aware of your body as a failure to what society wanted it to be? And for me, it was, I don't know, I was like 8-ish. Some people's, when you hear about it, it's like really young. But I was, I was a thinnish child, like normal. But, I started to get closer to like 7, 8, 9. I started to get what brand is it that actually calls it husky? Oh my gosh, I was mortified by this because I don't know, it's not Target, but it was like a big brand, maybe Zara, that had like children's clothing, and they literally called it, like the swimsuit, a husky size. And I was like, oh my gosh, complex much? But anyways, I was getting huskier, and I would have like I would cry because I didn't look like my friends. Now, I don't remember not being able to run, or like it didn't affect me physically. It wasn't like I was unhealthy. I ate healthy. It wasn't like I was on a diet, but just my body was doing stuff. And, I was crying, and, my mom had me lay on my back. So, like how your stomach gets flatter when you lay on your back. And she kind of said like, look, see, your stomach isn't big. And in the moment, it was like this weird moment that I knew it was a trick. It was working because I was like, oh yeah, look, my stomach is flat. But I knew that it was a trick, and she was just trying to make me feel better. Like it wasn't, and so I don't know what that means for me. That wasn't the whole point. We somehow got on this, like, it's important for us to realize what our like initial moment is and unwrap that. But when we go, how did we get here? This is like hundreds of years of bullshit that, what is the purpose of a woman? So, not to get too heavy, but also like, it's some heavy stuff. So maybe like grant yourself some grace that this isn't just you. You're not broken. This is something that as humankind evolves, this is starting to come to light. So like, again, grant yourself some damn grace because it goes really, really deep. So, this brings up this question then when we go like, okay, so a woman's body is supposed to look a certain way for the viewing pleasure. We're supposed to produce offspring. We're supposed to keep them alive. This is ingrained in us through a lineage. How are we supposed to feel when our body, quote unquote, fails us, of what our purpose is? So it makes sense that like, if this is in us, and we view our body as failing us, maybe you don't want to have kids. That's really hard in this society to go like, I know that my whole purpose, air quotes, is to keep humankind going, but kids aren't for me. You have to deal with a whole bunch of mental fuckery. Maybe you really want kids, but you're unable to. That's a whole cluster. Now, today, neither of those are my story, okay? So I wanted children. So I was able to like check that box for society that like, yes, I will comply and be a mother. And then although we had very, very mild I don't even want to call them fertility issues. Our second kid took 7 months. It was emotional, but we were able to have children without help. So those are not my story. I do think that we should we all agree that should be an episode at some point in the future, like, because I think that's hard for women, either of those stories. So I will have someone on, but this episode is going to be more about that, that first one of like our body being for the purpose of others' pleasure. Now, when I say this, I need you to hear this because this is super, super important. So again, hey, if you're multitasking, listen up. When I say that a woman's body historically has been for the viewing pleasure and that is one of my deepest issues, I do not mean that in a sexual way. So yes, obviously, there is historically men, women, okay, got it. But for me personally, I seek so much more validation from women than men about how I look. And I would gather, if you really think about it, unless you single, then get it, girl. But I would gather that if you are obviously this is if you are a heterosexual, so reverse everything I'm saying, that if you're a married woman or in a committed relationship, you are seeking the validation, not from the opposite sex or from, I don't know how to phrase that I don't know. Okay, anyways, you know what I mean? So if I'm heterosexual, I am doing this for women. I want compliments from women that I look cute. That's what I'm doing it for. Because let's be honest, men historically don't want a size 4. Like Kirby makes this joke about how like women's fashion right now is so clearly for women because that's not what men sexually want. Like my husband doesn't want me to be all like hard and teeny. He likes softness. And again, gosh, how many times can I say the word historically? Find another word, Lauryn. If we look at throughout history, is that a better, less annoying way? The Venus and like these statues, they weren't this size that we are trying to become, right? They were voluptuous women. Amy Porterfield has an amazing episode on this. So if you don't know who Amy Porterfield, she is originally known for a lot of like online marketing, her online marketing podcast. But she just recently started a podcast called Talking Body. And she has an episode that does a way better job than I would do, talking about this whole thing of like the woman's body and what it's there for and like historically how it has evolved into this new ideal of looking really, really skinny. So my body issues didn't actually start until more recently when my body stopped listening, I guess, when I told it to lose weight. Okay, so obviously body issues started a long, long time ago. Back when we found out we were having girls, like I knew like, hey, this is a certain way we're going to talk around them. And I really consciously have tried to protect them as much as possible. Like I didn't want them hearing their mom talk about herself in any kind of way. So like Curb and I would have like code words where I'd be like, do these pants make me look unhealthy? And he'd be like, no, I think you look very healthy in those pants. So we use a lot of like that terminology. I have a feeling my 8-year-old is gonna get wise and be like, what are you talking about? Do you look healthy? But we think we're doing a good job. So body issues has been obviously gone way back into my teens and before that. But where it became really bad, it was in my early 30s when I no longer could control it. And that's where shit got cray. Because in my 20s, if I was feeling a little fat and wanted to lose 5 pounds, I would not drink for a week and I would lose 5 pounds. Boom. I can give up drinking for 3 weeks now and lose 1-ish pounds. I've done this multiple times. I've done Whole30 and been like, wow, cool. Thought I would get better results than that. So there's all of these extreme dieting stuff that was unhealthy, but it worked. So in my mind, this body issues didn't really come to the surface. Now that my body, it's not fair. I do the things, I restrict the calories, I do all the stuff, and my body still says, that's nice. And that is where things got really bad. That is where I became very aware that there's a serious problem. This is taking up a lot of my energy, and maybe some wisdom came with it too. I don't know, kind of like, why are you wasting this much time? You're a successful person. You're damn it, on paper, you are successful. Amy Porterfield also talks about this, like it just, the absolute ridiculousness. We have women who have $1 million clinics that are listening to this right now. They are in a happy marriage. They have children. They've got the car. They've got the bags. They've got all the things that society tell us. You did a great job, but they're a size 16 and they feel like they are less than. And that is weird. Like, this is weird. So that's kind of where I was, I think, where it really came to the surface. Like, I couldn't lose the weight. And then I'm like, well, why is this so important that I lose the weight? Why do I need to look a certain way in a swimming suit for my husband on vacation? Is it more about me? And so, like, all of these questions started spiraling. So I would say for sure for the last year and a half, I mean, also, hi, podcast listeners, I will say that the podcast has accelerated this because I want to be vulnerable with you. I want to be imperfect for you. I don't want you to have another perfect talking head that perpetuates an issue of like, and you too can be just like me. You're not perfect. Oh, you should feel less than. And I'm not saying that there's any female chiropractors doing that. I'm just saying I didn't want that. I didn't want you to make me a guru or think that I'm perfect, because that's part of the problem. So for the last year and a half, I've really had to start doing the work, we'll call it. And one of the first things, so step one, was becoming aware of that negative thought pattern that would happen. Like, just observing the way I talked about myself as if it were somebody else. You know, there's all the stat out there that I'm going to butcher, but it's like something like 95% of the thoughts that we think on a daily basis, it's somewhere between 85 to 95, are repetitive. And then like 70% of them are negative. So anybody listening who knows is like, oh my God, Lauryn, do you do research before your episodes? I didn't know I was going to bring up that stat. Okay, get off my back. So either way, a huge amount of the thoughts that we think from day to day, from hour to hour, are repetitive. They're the same thoughts. They're not brand new spanking thoughts. And a huge percent, I know for a fact it's more than 50%, are negative. So that's kind of mind-blowing, right? Especially as chiropractors or like woke people, because all my listeners are woke. You know, that's not okay, because we realize that thoughts, you know, if you've ever read Jen Tempo, you're like, thoughts manifest. Well, crap, I'm saying I want this thing, but if I'm being really negative, how does that work, right? Like, how can I body hate myself into loving my body? And so that was kind of part of this work of like, wow, I mean, yeah, I guess in the past it did work. And that's why I could, you know, carry it, is I could see a photo, hate myself, get super motivated, like find time to go to the gym 2 hours, do really unhealthy stuff, and then my body would perform and I would lose weight. So that's how I would get away with it for a really long time. But like I said, when that stopped working, then it was like, okay, so hating yourself isn't working. I guess I might need to try a different approach. So I started just paying attention. And, you know, if you do the exercise of like, whoa, if someone talked to my friend that way, I would not be okay. Like, I would like girl boss or girl riot. I don't know. I would break a bottle and cut a girl. If somebody tried to talk to my daughter that way or my friend that way, yet here I am just hating myself all day, every day. Yeah, just perpetuating the problem. So then 2 was I had to, once I got awareness and I knew I couldn't just extreme diet my way in, because believe me, I tried, it didn't work. And then I tried a different thing, and then I tried a different thing, and then I tried a different thing. And I was like, maybe you need to find something more lifestyle. And we heard this, right? Like, this isn't brand new. We all know yo-yo diets don't work. I saw something the other day on social media where I get all my news that said, that the medical community, like even chiropractors, because we're not in the, you know what I mean? So like chiropractors who know so much more about the body, right? Like, than the medical community. So like, screw them. Like, we understand the body and health. What is health? And even chiropractors can't agree on one universal way that works to lose weight, right? Like, my thread is full of chiropractors, and we've got people telling me that intermittent fasting is the worst thing in the world. We've got people who love Whole30. We've got people and that's okay. I think that's cool. But even we can't agree that there's one thing. So like, I needed to figure out for me what was going to be my thing. Like, because I couldn't keep doing this style of diet because I have something coming up. And then what would happen is there'd be so much restriction on myself that then I would just binge. So like, for me, the classic that would happen for years and years is I would have a tropical vacation coming up where I was going to be in a swimming suit. So then for 1 to 2 months beforehand, I would like extreme, whatever the diet name was, just go at it. I would work really hard to lose 5 to 10 pounds. Obviously, it did get harder and harder and harder every year, even though I was doing the same things and even more extreme. And then on vacation, I mean, shit, I wouldn't even be on vacation yet. I would be like on the drive to the airport being like, boom, boom, boom. No, I'm not going to have a black coffee. I'm going to have a mocha because I like mochas. And I haven't had a mocha in 2 months because I'm only allowed black coffee. And it would start there. And then what would happen is obviously I would gain all of that weight back on vacation because I just unleashed all of the rules and restrictions. So for me, this is not an intermittent fasting episode, whatever. Intermittent fasting has not caused me to lose weight, even though I was told it would. But it does give me, it works for my lifestyle. So I don't eat until somewhere between 2 and 3 o'clock. Up until then, I just drink water, drink black coffee. I can work out. It doesn't bother me. It's actually really nice to quote unquote, not waste energy thinking about breakfast or any of that. And then I have an eating window of about 6 or 7 hours. Usually, so like during that, I don't eat a full day's meals. I did that in the beginning. That didn't work. So like, it's really gotten me in touch with like, even when I break my fast, I do it typically with like a salad or a smoothie or like a broth, like a soup. I can't even do like leftovers. So if we have like lasagna, that's too heavy for me. I have to break my fast. And by dinner time, I'm not starving at all. And then I eat dinner with my family. And for me, it's not like, oh, am I allowed to eat the rice? Am I allowed to eat the sweet potato? I am allowed. There are no good food, bad foods, because I've realized that's a trigger for me. That may not be your thing. Like I said, I'm not pushing intermittent fasting on you, but I've just had to find something. So then what happened is when we went into our most recent vacation in January, obviously November, it was early January, so we're coming off the holiday season. It was a really helpful thing during Christmas of like, I can have the cookie, I can't have it at 10 a.m., but that's okay. Like if I want it later, I can have it. And so that helped. When I went into vacation, I didn't eat breakfast. My family did. And I just drank black coffee. And that was so healthy for me. That was healthy for me because I didn't feel like I needed to binge. I feel good when I don't eat breakfast. So it was like, well, I'm not going to change. There aren't rules. This is just my lifestyle. That has very much helped. You know what else helped on vacation? So, okay, I don't know if I shared this with you guys that we went to a Club Med in Punta Cana in January of this year. And Club Med used to be owned by a French company. We knew that, but I didn't realize why that mattered until we went to Punta Cana. And I would say 90% of the people there were French. Spoiler alert, Kirby and I do not speak French at all. Not even really bonjour. And because they don't say bonjour. If they said bonjour, I'd be like, oh, bonjour. But they say like, hey, what's up? Or like, how's it going? And I don't know what any of that means. So like people don't walk around, like it's kind of like us in America. Like if somebody learned the word hello, and that's the only word they really know. And then like when we cross people on the sidewalk, we don't say hello most of the time. We go, hey, or something like that. And I'm like, what'd you say? What? So bonjour didn't even work for me there. So being we've gone to multiple all-inclusives, right? So you get very used to seeing people in swimming suits. And so many people at this resort were just in shape. And that is not normal. Like when you go to Mexico, you see a lot of Americans, you see a lot of Canadians. And so you're used to seeing, yep, some people got abs, some people don't. Like you just see all this variety. But when we were at this very French resort, an extreme amount of people were very fit. And it kind of made you realize like, wow, French just have different genetics, because I've gone to enough all-inclusives to know that this is not normal. And French, like when you look into like genetics and body types, the French do. They have very different body types. Now me, I am like 43% British. Actually, I think 23andMe just told me it went up a little bit. So I'm like closer to 50%, which can just side note was really disappointing. So I've always been very naturally tan. I've got black hair, even though you follow me, you're like, I thought you were blonde. No, I'm not a blonde. You can tell my roots. When I was in high school, I got invited to be in the multicultural club. And I was like, what? And I used to think I was German and Irish. Okay. And I was like, all right, that sucks. Well, actually back in high school when like, you just want to fit in. I was like, okay, good. I'm nothing exotic or weird. Now as an adult, I'm like, so I did this test, just like crossing every finger that I got something cool. All right. Like to me, like something exotic, like, oh my gosh, tell me that I'm Brazilian or Italian or Moroccan or Egyptian, or like, oh my gosh, please, can I be Persian? Oh, that would be so cool. And I got my test results back and I was like the whitest of white person, like nothing. You guys, I'm 43% to 50% British. So it was just really like, well, where does my tan come from? That's boring. But anyways, so if you've ever been to an area where there's a lot of British people, you will know that British people age their bodies. They get very, very red tan. They're very, very tan, and they're very stomach. They carry their weight in their stomach, like definitely. Like when we were in Spain, I remember like there was a ton of British people there because like that had lined up with their holiday. And yeah, like British people, as they age and gain weight, they just look a certain way. And so it kind of brings up this video that I stumbled across called Poodle Science, or The Problem with Poodle Science. I recommend you go find it on YouTube. It's only 2.5 minutes or something like that. And it's this idea that, a poodle is like, if we were to say that a poodle is the ideal dog, no matter how hard a mastiff tries, it cannot become a poodle. And so like understanding my genetics is helpful of going like, no matter how hard I try, I can't look like that. Like I am not French. I am not Norwegian. I am not whatever other ethnicity has natural svelteness in their genes, that's not mine. And so like knowing my genetics is helpful because that affects what is possible and normal for my body as it ages. Okay. Also, I hope I didn't offend anybody listening that I wanted to be something other than European. My intention is never to ever to offend. So I do know that that can be kind of like triggering for people of color of like, so I apologize, not my intent. So number 3, besides finding a healthy eating, drinking lifestyle and understanding my genetics, which was kind of like a sub 3, so that'd be like 3 or 2B, I don't know. If you're keeping notes, good luck. So we'll call this number 3. I started following people on social media that look like me. That is extremely helpful. Extremely helpful. So, and this would apply if body issues aren't, or like fat, skinny isn't your issues, but like, birth stories are, like your birth story wasn't ideal for you. I recommend unfollowing people who push a lot of stuff that's anti C-section or whatever, like, what are you allowing into your brain? What are you allowing that you are viewing and scrolling? Because mindless scrolling has been shown to be so negative if you're not conscious. So it doesn't mean, like, I don't unfollow someone because they're skinny, but at all. Trust me, the work has helped. Like I used to have to unfollow. I wasn't planning on sharing this, but like, it's kind of embarrassing, but like I would have to unfollow people who were chiropractors, who were very attractive and thin and had the body shape that I really, really wish I had, and were in a swimming suit all the time. Like it's not good for my brain. And so I had to realize that was a trigger and had to put some boundaries around that. But I think what's more important for me now is not that I don't see that, but that it's more important that I see body positive people, like seeing women who look like me or who are larger than me own their confidence and show up. And that's also part of why I force myself to show up for you, because it's like, well, shoot. If that is helping me, then what I do will help somebody else. And so I want to be a part of the solution. So social media can be part of the problem. It can be part of the solution. So just be conscious of what you're putting in. I could list a bunch of people. I'll do it on when this episode releases, of like body positive people that I follow. One of my favorites though is Celeste Barber, I think. She's a comedian. And she does these like challenges. You need to go follow her. Please go follow her. But anyway, so she'll show like something very sexual, like that a woman, is like modeling, and the woman has this like ideal, gorgeous model body. And then like she does the pose. Oh, I love when we can just laugh about stuff like that. Like for me, and again, oh my gosh, we're in such a like sensitive world that I appreciate, by the way, but like now I'm like, oh shoot, will the women who have an ideal body feeling bad about themselves by listening to this? I don't want you to do that. Okay, listen, if you love your body and it is what society says is ideal, I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for you. Please don't tell me. I hope you don't have body issues. So I don't want you to feel bad at all. Like, this is our shit. This is not you. This is very much our own stuff. Okay, back to, so anyways, go follow Celeste. But I was disappointed the other day because I was looking and I'm like, oh no, is she losing weight? Because I don't want her to get thin. It would make it not as helpful. But if she's getting healthy, I'm happy for her, whatever. So follow people that are part of your solution and are going to help you do the work. Because if you're spending a lot of time on social media, that's just one easy thing. Okay, there was another thing. What was really powerful? Oh, I switched my thoughts on workouts. So for years and years and years, like, so I'm the type of person that just can't slow down and do yoga. Like, because that doesn't burn any calories. And if I'm working out, I'm doing it to burn calories so I can get skinnier. And, there's all this stuff about like, you should work out to be healthy. Like, that's, and I'm like, okay, yeah. And by healthy, I mean skinny. So like it didn't work. But I don't know, a couple months ago, I was watching Sunday Morning, and I think it was Sanjay Gupta. I don't know, some famous medical doctor was on, and he was talking about Alzheimer's. Now, Alzheimer's is something very close to me because I have dementia and Alzheimer's coming at me genetic wise on both sides of my family. It's a terrible, terrible disease. I saw my grandma essentially, die of it, and it's really scary. So it's like something that I, watch as research comes out. I just pay extra attention because I don't want to get it, and I worry that I might. So he's talking about, what the research is saying, and I don't remember what all 5 things were. I do know that not drinking was not one of the 5 things to help prevent Alzheimer's, because you bet your ass as he was listing them, I was like, again, crossing my fingers, like, please don't say not drinking. Please don't say not drinking. I don't want to think that I have to give, like, if I continue to have alcohol in my life that he didn't. So, but one of them was berries. Okay, I remembered one. But the other one, the more important one that's pertinent to what we're talking about, was he talked about regular cardiovascular exercise. Like getting that heartbeat up, 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes a day, or just very regularly. So not necessarily going for a walk, not necessarily doing yoga, like actual cardiovascular exercise. And so obviously this doesn't help me do yoga, but it did help me switch my thinking on why I'm getting on the treadmill, why I'm signing up for that class on vacation, like why I'm at the gym in the morning, even though I'm on vacation, why I'm waking up. Because before, the motivation to work out was to get skinnier. That's it. That was the only reason. And I would be like, and blah, 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 it's healthy for you. No, that wasn't like, it didn't resonate. But now that there's this like, moving my body, like now that it's deeply personal and it's connected to something to me, like Alzheimer's, for you, it might be heart disease. Like if heart attacks come very common at a young age in your family, having that as part of the reason that you work out may be just switching that. But that has been part of my work is in addition, sometimes I work out to, get thinner, but if that was the only reason, like it wasn't healthy for me. So adding in an actual reason for like, this is why I am doing a run. This is why I'm doing a high intensity workout. If I burn the calories, that is fantastic. If it helps me lose a pound, cool, great. But I am doing this for a bigger picture. Okay, 5th thing, we're getting closer, guys, don't worry, is really identifying my triggers. And this is tethered to what has happened more recently. So when I promised to do an episode on what's some of the work I've done to get healthier with a relationship with my body, I was on a high, kind of like an all-time high. I've never loved my body in a healthy way when it didn't look the way I thought it should. Because, I've loved my body. Like when I got real skinny for my wedding, I was like, yeah, girl, get it. But I've never loved my body when it wasn't what I wanted it to look like as much as I did in like November, December, January. I was kind of at a high. And that's when I promised, like, all right, I'm going to share with you how I got here to the top of this mountain. And then between then and recording this episode, I slid all the way down that mountain into a low that I don't know if I've ever been, because with awareness, before it wasn't that like these were new thoughts when I spiraled backwards into body hate, body loathing. I hated my body for years and years, but it was just the normal. So it was like, I don't know, another day, another bad photo, what you gonna do? But when you go from a high to a low, that low feels really, really low. And so when I started to when I stopped crying, I started to reflect on like, okay, in a very nice way. Like, so I could have beat myself up and been, not physically, but I could have verbally beat myself up and been like, you loser, you're an imposter, you're telling people on social media that you love your body, look at you, you're okay, right? Lots of lies. I could have done that. I had to consciously go, whoa, that's mean. I'm not going to talk about myself this way, but I am going to, with grace, reflect as to how I possibly got here so I can just make this part of the work and improve in my story. And so again, I look back at the previous couple weeks and there were triggers. There were moments that definitely contributed. It wasn't just that day looking at myself in the mirror at the gym that caused it. It was a lead up to that. And I think that however no matter what kind of mental health disorder or dysfunction that you may feel you have, whether that is ADHD or depression or panic attacks or body dysmorphia or whatever it is, I would guess, and this is truly me just guessing, that like if you fall into a deep state of depression or your anxiety gets really bad, you can kind of look back at the last month or week or 2 weeks and go like, okay, I can kind of now in hindsight see that I was traveling down this road. Now I'm not really sure what to do different when I see those triggers next time. So like, for instance, for me, I went shopping at a boutique. I tried on I needed new jeans because damn Gen Zers told me I'm not allowed to wear skinny jeans anymore, but also fuck them. Like, never mind. I'm going to wear what makes me feel good about myself. But in that moment, I wanted a non-pair of skinny jeans because that's all I own. So I had to try on a bunch of jeans. And some of them were my size that I always buy and fit. And some of them were a size larger and still didn't fit, and so I didn't dwell on it too much in that moment. I just kind of kept moving. But hindsight, that was like a chip in the glass for me. And so I think that maybe next time when I see a slight trigger like that doesn't send me spiraling, but I know has the potential to contribute to a spiral coming up, I might take some time to kind of like journal through that and write like, okay, this is what happened today. What are some truths I know about this situation? Some truths are that I know that body, like how far something comes up, how much elastic is in, whatever. Just kind of like journal through that. I don't know if that'll help the spiral from not coming, because loving your body it's not this destination. It is this process where there are going to be highs and there are going to be lows. This is in everything in life, right? Like, so I do know that I don't think it's possible that I can avoid any future lows. I think that all of this work, so like journaling when a trigger happens, will contribute to getting back to a place of healthy thinking faster. We'll just draw awareness to like it faster. Will give me strength in talking about it more, helping and reaching out to others more. Because it's got to be helpful, right? The work's got to do something. But yeah, so I think that not beating myself up, journaling, seeing those triggers, I think crying was healthy. It's good. But another thing that was really helpful when you do spiral is kind of realizing that I don't know what the truth is about my body. Because there have been times in my life, in my most recent years, that I know I cried about being fat. And I look at those photos now. So like we went to Thailand in November of 2018. And on that trip, I remember crying to Kirby because I looked at photos, which are a trigger for me, and being like, I look fat in those. Oh my God, I see these photos now and I'm like, I would kill to look like that now. And so that in itself, I'm sure you can relate to this if you're really still listening to this podcast or this episode, that you look at photos, whether it was in high school or in college or last year, that you were like, oh my gosh, I thought I was fat then, and I would just be happy if I was 5 pounds thinner. And then what we do is we go, if I looked like that now, I would be happy. That's okay. So that's not where we're going to stop in the work, because that's a lie. That is a lie. And that is proof that it isn't about the weight. The fact that you weren't happy then, even though you think you should have been, that's the proof that has nothing to do with what you look like, because you weren't happy then. It is so much deeper than that. And so please don't tell yourself that, like, if you could just look like that now, you would appreciate it. Like, no, how about instead visualize a future you, a 60-year-old you. Okay, so I don't know how old you are listening. Okay, so whatever. For me, I'm 34. And I look back at pictures when I was 28. I was 6 months postpartum and I was thinner than I am now. And I just there's all sorts of like mind fuckery around that. So instead of going like, oh my gosh, if I could just, right? I picture a 50-year-old me looking at pictures of this person right now that I have. This 34-year-old meat sack. And that changes things. I go like, because who knows, maybe I'll be skinnier when I'm 50. It's for sure possible. I'm getting a Peloton, or off-brand actually. But maybe I'm going to find my thing and I'm going to get so skinny. But I have a feeling 50-year-old me is going to look at pictures of me now and go, wow, all you saw was that number on the scale. Look at your skin. Look at how young your kids are. Look at how you're holding her on her back and on your back and you're giving her a piggyback ride. Like, I can visualize 50-year-old me looking at 34-year-old me and going like, you were so mean to yourself. Damn it, I said I wasn't going to cry. So instead of looking back at pictures and going like, if I could just get that weight, this is a much healthier exercise to go like, I can love this body now. It doesn't mean that I can't want to be healthier. It doesn't mean that I can't want to lose some of this belly fat, but I'm going to do it in a healthy way. Like, you can still do all that. But when you're in the spiral, that was how I got to this, was realize what is the truth about your current status. If 50-year-old you would look at you and just love this, and 34-year-old you looks back at an unhappy, crying 30-year-old in Thailand and goes, you were unhappy then, so what was the truth then? Was the truth that I wasn't as fat as I thought I should have been? Or is the truth now that I should, hopefully this is making sense to you. You might have to re-listen, although maybe re-listening won't help at all. Hopefully y'all are following along. So that helps stops the spiral of I actually can't trust what is the truth. I cannot trust that I would love myself right now if I was 10 pounds thinner, because that wasn't the truth in previous years. I cannot trust that if I stopped extreme dieting and, just worked out what felt right and fueled my body with what feels right, I can't trust that I would gain weight. That's a lie that I tell myself, is if I don't step on the scale and stop the hemorrhaging, I will not hate myself enough to stop eating French fries. And it's like, is that what's worked? Is that true? So I don't know quite how to end this and wrap this up. I think what I will say is I'll just ask a simple question of what if. What if you had your ideal body right now and you weren't happy? What if you were 10 pounds heavier, 20 pounds heavier, still functionally healthy, doing all the things? It wasn't limiting your health in any way, or your movement of your body, or your heart, or, and you were happier than you are now? What if you moved your body and fueled your body to what felt right, and you didn't beat yourself up? What if you weren't always trying to lose 10 pounds? What if you just decided to be okay? And I'm not asking you to be okay. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying, ask yourself, what if I was just okay with what I look like? What if I was just okay with that? What would that look like? How much happier would I be? Because that's what the body thing is about, right? Like, unless you are consciously going, no, I want to look a certain way because I'm a model and I need to, okay, you're an extreme subset. I would venture that most of us listening are seeking to be happy. That's why we say, I would be happier if I was thinner. Again, do we know that to be true? Is that the truth from the past? And what if you decided to be happier now? Like, what if you didn't hate your body? Could you be happy right now? So just what if you could be okay? I think that is the first step in all of this. It's not jumping to being okay. It's just saying, like, what would that look like? What would my life look like? What would my thoughts be like? What would trying on clothes be like? What would looking at pictures of our family, a family portrait session, look like if I didn't go, oh my God, that double chin? Like, would I see my children differently? Would I view my body? What if I viewed my body as like awesome that it can run a half marathon? Like, yeah, I'm size 10 and I run 13 miles. You're size 4 and probably you can't run 3. Like, what if we just like viewed our bodies, these awesome things? Maybe you can have kids, what if you're like, that is so cool that I get a regular period and not everybody gets that. Like, what if? So I guess that's how we'll end this. I will tell you that my process has been, I thought that I would start feeling that way about my body, loving it first, and then I would start saying things like, I love my body. I thought I had to like actually believe it before I could say it. And I will tell you that a lot of my progress has come from flipping that script of going like, I'm just going to say, I love this body and I'm grateful for it. And it starts kind of as a lie, but you say it and I will tell you what, you do start believing it. So for anybody who this episode has resonated with, I would love to hear from you. It helps. It helps a lot. You have no idea how much your feedback helps me show up vulnerably and honestly, and not feel like I'm doing this from a purely selfish perspective. So I hope that it's helped, and I love you so much in your journey. And I know that whether you're dealing with body issues, fertility issues, birth issues, height issues, acne issues, that you're not alone. And I hope you know that we're all we're just a bunch of meat sacks. So until next week, bye guys.